imagination is the uniquely human capacity to envision that which is not, and therefore the font of all invention and innovation. In its arguably most transformative and revelatory capacity, it is the power that enables us to empathize with humans whose experiences we have never shared. Albert Einstein said, "The true sign of intelligence is not knowledge, but imagination." Today I will be talking about Destination Imagination, or DI. DI is a global organization. According to the Destination Imagination website, DI involves 150,000 people, 150,000 people annually from 30 different countries. I'm credible to speak on this because I was a member of DI for 7 years. I've competed at every level. I am currently a coach of DI, and I would like to start a team at Grace. Today I will be talking about what DI is, how it works, and the rewards of being in DI. Once you understand what DI is, I can better explain how it works. According to the DI website, DI is a nonprofit started in 1999 that strives to stimulate imagination and teach STEM. STEM is an acronym that stands for Science, Technology, Engineering, and Math. It teaches kids necessary skills for careers in the engineering fields and things such as that. Destination Imagination is a global organization. According to Destination Imagination, it has 1.5 million alumni, 38,000 volunteers annually, 30 countries, and 48 states. DI collaborates with organizations such as NASA, 3M, Disney, Motorola Solutions Foundation, the Oracle Academy, Mayo Clinic, Project Management Institute Education Foundation, ShareSpace Foundation, PCG Education, National Geographic, U.S. Space and Rocket Center, Partnership for 21st Century Learning, and other industry organizations that help kids make career connections. The way the DI works is first you get a challenge, which has a main problem, which is something along the lines of create a creature, or it can be something along the lines of like create a creature that has to survive in an extreme environment, something with that. And then they give you like extra challenges where you have to have, like for that particular one, we had to have a device to help the creature survive in the environment. And then after you create your whole skit and everything, you have to have 2 side trips, which are 2 of your props that you like the best and you think look the coolest or the most creative, and then the judges will judge those separately. Now that you understand what DI is and how it works, I will tell you the reward of being in Destination Imagination. First, I'll tell you about the competitions, though. The way the performance works is when you get to the competition, you'll take your props and everything into a loading area, they call it. And then they'll say your time starts now, and you push it all into your performance area, you set it up, and you start your skit, and you have 8 minutes to do your skit. And every team that competes in your section will do their skit in the same fashion with 5 judges, and then after you do your skit, the 5 judges come up and ask you questions about your props, or how you made stuff, how you got things in your story, where your ideas came from. Now that you understand what DI is and how it works, I will tell you the reward of being in Destination Imagination. The biggest and my favorite reward of being in Destination Imagination is the Global Finals competition. In DI, there are 3 levels of competition. You start with the regional competition, which is, for me, was everybody in northern Indiana. And then there's the state or affiliate competition, which is everybody in your state. So for me, it was Indiana. And then there's the Global Finals competition that takes place in Knoxville, Tennessee, at the University of Tennessee. And people come from all over the world. There's people from China, India, there's people from European countries, Canada, Mexico. And they come here and they compete, and it's like a week-long thing, and it's kind of just a big celebration, basically. The first day you go to Global Finals, they have a thing called a welcoming ceremony, where all the countries come in with flags and their top team in that country, and all the states come in with their flags and the top team in their state, and they play their national anthems, and then somebody usually sings the American national anthem. And then we have, there's performances by, we've had people from TV shows or singers, stuff like that come in. And then throughout the week, all those organizations that I listed earlier have showcases where they show off really cool things. NASA brings a bunch of really cool stuff. They have like very creative, new, innovative design things, like stuff that involves lasers or a lot of computer technology that you might not have seen. They even have they had a 3D printer station one year. And then one of my favorite things to do at the Global Finals competition is pin trading, which is, in DI it involves pins, like the pins you put on your shirts. And people bring these towels and they put all their pins on there, and then you trade around with them with different people, so you can get pins from like China, and then other people, some of the people from China and stuff will bring other cool like things from their country that they'll trade for your pins with. And then another really cool thing is they have a duct tape ball where people make duct tape costumes, and all go to the same area and they try to break the record for the most people wearing duct tape in one area. And Destination Imagination does currently hold the record. I was there when we broke it the last time. But it's really cool because people bring like different costumes. People dressed up as Fred and Wilma, but it's all like duct tape costumes. You just see all kinds of really cool creative things. And the other big reward of being in Destination Imagination is the knowledge gained on innovation and creativity. DI's main focus is to be innovative and creative. You're not going to win at competitions if your skit isn't innovative or creative. And then you learn to create new things under pressure. One of the things that I haven't talked about yet is the instant challenge, which is another part of the competition. So after you do your main challenge, you have an instant challenge, which is where your group goes into a room and it's very secretive, and they give you a challenge that either involves building or acting. And for a building one, you would do something along the lines of building a bridge or a tower with things like straws, paper, or stickers. And then for the acting one, they would do something along the lines of giving you a skit, and they would say, all right, you have this word and you need to make a skit that happens in this environment, go. And you just start and you have to build the skit right away with on the spot. And then it also teaches you how to solve problems with imagination, which is really good because it teaches you to think outside the box and think of other options on how to solve big issues. To review, DI is a global nonprofit that strives to stimulate imagination. DI works through a series of competitions that test creativity and imagination. DI rewards a person through global finals and knowledge. Albert Einstein said, to raise new questions, new possibilities, to regard old problems from a new angle requires imagination and marks real advance in science. Thank you.
It is never too late to get into tennis. When I started playing at the age of 8, when my parents gave me a tennis racket for Christmas, I soon learned that tennis is a lifelong sport that can be enjoyed by people of all ages. It is also something you never forget once you learn it. This is a quote by Samantha Stosur. She is a former #1 doubles tennis player in the world, and she was also ranked #4 in singles. Tennis is relevant to all of you because you will probably play tennis sometime in your life, and if not, you will watch it on TV or watch a friend play, and it will be helpful to know the rules. Like Samantha Stosur said, it is also good for any age, so you'll probably play at least sometime in your lifetime. For example, my grandpa was playing when he was still 92 years old. So you can start young and you can play until you're really old. I'm credible to talk about this because I've played since I was about 5 years old. I played here at Grace College. I've taught mini camps, and even 2 summers ago I had a job where I was coaching little kids. I also have a cousin who plays professional tennis. My source comes from tennistheme.com, and today I'm going to talk about the history of tennis, the equipment needed for tennis, the rules of tennis, and I'm also going to demonstrate a few of the different shots you can take. And first thing I'm going to talk about is the history. Tennis was developed from a 12th century European French handball game called palm. It is said to be created by European monks for entertainment during the ceremonial occasions, which is a picture of this, sorry for their limited clothing. And it was only played using your hand and a ball, like they didn't have rackets or anything. And between the 16th and 18th century, the game of palm was highly regarded by kings and noblemen. The French players would begin the palm game by shouting the word tennis, which means play, which kind of transformed into the word tennis. And also in 1583, the first tennis going to talk about the Grand Slams and the history of the 4 major tennis tournaments that are played every year by professionals. The first one is Wimbledon. It was first played on July 9th of 1877. It is located in London, England every year. And they play on clay courts here, which is a slicker surface, and you can slide more, so it's kind of different from the hard court that you usually see. And players have to wear white clothing to this tournament. The second is the US Open, which was first played on August 31st of 1881. It's located in Flushing Meadows, New York City. And this is a hard court tournament, so it's like the courts you see here at Grace. The third is the French Open, and it's located in Roland Garros in Paris, France every year. There's no specific date really that I could find, but it was first played in 1891. Probably around May though, because that's when it's played every year now. And this is also a different court surface. It's played on grass, which kind of slows the ball down a little, but it's still pretty slick. And then the last one is the Australian Open, which is located in Melbourne, Australia. It was first played on November 17th of 1901, and this is also a hard court. And then this picture is from the US Open, and I attended the tournament like a year ago. That's why it's not great quality, but I took it, so I thought it was kind of cool. Okay, now that you know some of the history about tennis, I am going to teach you about some of the equipment that's needed to play. First thing you need is a tennis racket, but a lot of people don't know that you can adjust tennis rackets a lot, and there's a lot of different things you can do to make them fit how you want to play. The first thing you can change is the strings. There are 3 different string types. One is polyester, another is semi-filament, and the other is synthetic gut. This just kind of changes the amount of spin and control you can have with your racket. And then another thing you can change is the frame size. You can have either a bigger frame size or a smaller frame size. And with the bigger frame size, you have a bigger sweet spot that people call. It's like the center of the racket where you get the most power. So if you have a smaller racket, you don't have such a big sweet spot, but you have more control. Another thing you can change is the grip of the racket. And if you play a lot, you have to change this about every 1 to 2 weeks. And you can have like a stickier grip, which helps with gripping it, or you can have like a softer one, just based on preference as well. And then there are also a lot of different brands of rackets. A lot you've probably heard of. They're Head, Babolat, Yonex, Wilson. They also have a lot of clothing that comes in these brands. The next thing you need are tennis balls. And a lot of people don't know that there are 4 different types of tennis balls. And this is in the tournament life. So ages 5 to 8 use this big foam ball, and they use only like a fourth of the court. And this helps little kids be able to actually play because it'd be difficult for them to play with the fast pace of a normal tennis ball. So they use a big foam ball. And then ages 9 to 10 use this orange ball. It has less pressure in it, so they can like bounce it still, but they can still get to it faster. And they use almost the full court, but they cut off the end. And then this is 11 and up, but it's actually like 11 to 13-year-olds. They use this yellow or the green dot ball, and it's almost a full-size tennis ball, but it has slightly less pressure, so they can get to it, but they're on the full court. And then once you hit age 14, you use the normal tennis ball. Okay, and of course you need a tennis court. And now that you understand some of the history of tennis and the equipment needed, I'm going to explain some of the rules. First of all, the scoring in tennis is kind of different from most sports. You start at 0 still, but instead of it being called 0, it's called love. And then it goes love, 15, 30, 40. And if both players have 40, it's called deuce. And then it goes to add in or add out. And then if you have the add and you win the next point, it goes like you win that game. But if you lose, you go back to deuce and try again. So you have to win 2 points in a row once you get to deuce. And then there are 6 games in the set, win by 2. And then 2 sets in a match. But if you're professional, you play 3 out of 5 sets. And then the court layout is different depending on if you're playing singles or doubles. For doubles, you have everything in the green and the white line around the end. But if you're playing singles, these alleys get cut off and you play within these lines. And then this is the baseline, and then you have the service line and then the service boxes, which are meant for when you are serving a tennis ball. When you serve, you stand on either side of the center mark, and you serve diagonally into the service box on the other side of the court. And then the space between the baseline and the service line is called no man's land, which is, you're supposed to avoid it because good players will try to hit the ball in that spot, so you don't want to be trying to hit the tennis ball at your feet. Okay. Now that you know some of the history, equipment, In process of playing tennis, I'm going to show you a couple of the main shots that you'll see in tennis. First one's forehand. It's probably the most well-known shot. It's used with your prominent hand, and you, as this guy is showing, you start with your racket at your pocket, and you follow through up to your ear. If you're right-handed, you'll hit it with your right hand. If you're left-handed, you'll hit it with your left hand. Then the backhand is just the opposite of this. Most people use two hands on their backhand, but if you're cool like this guy, Roger Federer, you can use one hand. And it's your opposite side of your body, like from your forehand, and you go from your pocket to your ear as well. And most times it's two-handed, so you have more control. And then the last one I'm going to show you is the serve and the overhead. They're pretty interchangeable because it's the same motion, but the serve, you'll toss the ball yourself, and you'll extend your arm all the way, and you'll follow through down on your other side of your body. And then if you're hitting an overhead, it's the same exact motion, but it's out of the air because the other person is hitting it to you, so you're not throwing it up in the air yourself. In conclusion, I have talked about the history of tennis, some of the majors, the equipment that's needed, the court layout, scoring, and the main shots in tennis. Tennis is a sport you can play until you're 90 years old, just like Samantha Stozier said. You can play it in the future with your kids and grandkids, and everybody will enjoy it. So my call of action to you is to get out and play some tennis. Thank you.
Can anyone tell me what song I was just playing?
Over the rainbow.
Good. Somewhere Over the Rainbow by the famous Is, who has passed away in recent years. But this is one of the many, many songs made famous by the ukulele. Great instrument of the ukulele. As all of you know, this is what a ukulele looks like. They come in 4 strings and 6 strings. This is a 4-string ukulele. One reason that I think the ukulele is a really, really special instrument is because it can captivate an audience just like any other instrument, such as a guitar or drums or a piano or any other instrument. And it doesn't require an ample amount of skill to know how to play it, as you've just seen with me playing. But I've played the uke for about a year, and I have not lost any interest since I picked it up around December 20th of last year. And my goal with the next few minutes as I speak to you is to inform you about the ukulele, and I want to be able to tell you about the physical makeup of the ukulele, my story coming to the ukulele, and how I've enjoyed it since last year, and also why the ukulele is a super special instrument in the eyes of the outside world. Why do you guys care about the ukulele? I think it's important for you guys to care about the ukulele because playing and listening to music has been proven by many studies to enhance your capacity of your mind and to expand your brain and your knowledge, and I think there's a lot to be said about combining your mind with your hands and your ears and your eyes and using it in the world of music. And with that, the ukulele is also a really fun hobby to pick up. It's really, really easy to learn. I learned my first 2 songs in about a day, and if you want to continue to get better, you can continue to get even better and better, but it doesn't require too much skill. And in the words of Jake Shimabukuro, one of the greatest ukulele players on the planet right now, the ukulele is the instrument of peace. If everyone played ukulele, this world would be a much happier place. I agree with this because if everyone played the ukulele, it would be a lot more fun and a lot more happy of a world that we live in. My credibility is that I've been playing for years, I've told you, and I've spent countless hours playing, researching, and looking at YouTube tutorials and playing for the past year. So with that, I want to be able to talk to you about the physical makeup of the ukulele. Now this is the ukulele, and at the top of it is what is called the head of the ukulele, which holds the tightness of the strings. If you go down, it makes it looser, and it loses, it makes it go down in pitch, and then if you tighten it, it goes up in pitch. So the head holds the tightness of the strings, and you can take it down to a different key or make the strings just sound different how you want it. And this is the neck of the ukulele. This is the fingerboard, obviously, because my fingers are playing different chords and notes on the fingerboard. And these metal strips in between indicate the different frets. So if I want to play a different sound, I can see it by the different frets. This is a C note, and then I can go higher or lower with it. And you can indicate it on the fingerboard. And then this is the body of the ukulele. This is an acoustic ukulele. There are different kinds of ukuleles. You can amplify the sound if it's an electric ukulele, if you have an audio jack in here, but this is simply acoustic. So the body, usually made of wood or a different kind of plastic, amplifies the sound. So the noise that you hear comes straight from the hole from the inside of the ukulele. And something interesting about the neck with the strings is I wanted to learn how to play ukulele, or learn how to play guitar, but the strings are metal and it takes a lot of calluses and a lot of bleeding on your fingers to learn and to get used to the guitar. These strings are nylon, however. Most ukuleles have nylon strings, and I can play all day without getting any kind of calluses or hurting my hands in any way. So that's a really cool perk of the ukulele. And next, now that you have an understanding of how the ukulele is physically made up, I want to tell you of how I personally came to the ukulele. Around last year, around Christmas time, my friend had a ukulele, and I wanted to learn how to play the guitar, but didn't have too much time to learn how to play it and didn't really feel like bleeding a whole lot with my hands. So my friend had a ukulele, I picked it up, and I fell in love with it. So for Christmas, my mom bought me a ukulele, which brings me to my next point of when I researched the ukulele, it was really special because I found out that they were really cheap. My mom bought me this one along with an electric tuner and a manual and DVDs for about $60. I've researched a lot of different YouTube videos, and there was a video in particular where a gentleman was playing ukulele really, really well, and he played on a $20 ukulele and a $1,000 ukulele, and it sounded nearly identical. You need to tune them often if it's not as quality of a ukulele, but it can be definitely stated that you can have a really quality ukulele, or you can have one that is not so quality, and you can still learn and have a great time with it. You can learn everything that you would need to know on the ukulele by simply looking at YouTube or looking at my favorite website, Uku Tabs, which is where you find every pop song you can think of, and you can play the chords of it, such as Over the Rainbow or any other type of song. My favorites are 21 Pilots songs, which have a lot of ukulele in them. And so now that you know my personal experience with coming to the ukulele, I want to tell you why many individuals in the world think that the ukulele is a special instrument. In comparison to all other instruments, the ukulele has a soft, welcoming sound that draws emotions that other instruments can't draw. If I were to have played Over the Rainbow just now, that little excerpt of it, with a guitar, it still would have sounded cool, and I love the guitar and still want to learn how to play it. But there's something special about the ukulele and songs that are originally played with the ukulele that draw certain emotions that others can't. I can't speak for your experience just now with having listened to that, but for me, it's a lot more special to hear a more intricate sound and a lot softer and more pretty of a sound than a hard guitar or a piano that we're so used to hearing. Another special point about the ukulele is that it covers many genres. You can play an offbeat to play more of a reggae sound, and you can also play straight through to play pop type songs or any other type songs, and you can play ballads, you can play love songs, you can play fast and upbeat, and there's many different areas to cover, which is why the ukulele is super cool in covering many different types of songs. Another cool point about why the ukulele is super special is that nearly everyone can learn to play. As I've said, I learned Can't Help Falling in Love and House of Gold, both the 21 Pilots renditions, in a day. And a lot of songs, as I was telling Lexi before my speech, is that you can play 4 chords and play nearly every song you'll ever need to know. You can play C, G, A minor, and F, and you can play nearly every song on the planet, which is super cool. And the better you get, and the more time you spend, you can learn different chords, and you can play a lot of different songs, which is really cool. The last point why the ukulele is super special, which I've already touched on, is that they're super affordable. If you really want to get into ukulele, you can start with a $20 ukulele and play around with your friends. And once you let that get beat up, and once you start to enjoy it more, you save up more money and you buy $100 ukulele, $200 ukulele, and you can spend a lot of time with it. And the more quality you can get electric ukuleles, you can stay acoustic, or you can do many different things with it. But they're really special and they're very affordable. In conclusion, We talked about the physical makeup of the ukulele with the head, neck, and the body. We talked about my story coming to the ukulele within the past year and hopefully how I've improved on it. And we talked about why the ukulele is special in the eyes of many people in the world. And I want to encourage all of you to involve yourself musically in some way, because the ukulele is a really special instrument, and whether it's guitar, piano, fiddle, or anything, music is super cool, and you can expand your mind and expand your talents, and you can find out new things about yourself. And I especially encourage you to join the ukulele clan, because the ukulele is a really cool instrument and it's super easy to play. So buy a ukulele and learn to play it. It's really fun. Thank you.
It's 1 in the morning and you're sitting in your dorm room and you're really hungry, because let's be honest, we're always hungry. You have 0 food in your room and you have no way to make any food. It's also too cold to go outside and drive to some fast food restaurant where you're going to get something that's unhealthy and honestly unsatisfying. I feel like many of us have probably been in a situation like this, especially as college students. We don't have any food and we're hungry and there's nowhere to go. Not to mention, we all probably miss good home-cooked meals. This is extremely inevitable for all of us, and we're not going to escape this situation as we continue to live in dorms at college. And as we live in these dorms, we're not going to learn how to cook if we have no way for us to do that, and we have no means. As we live on campus, we don't have easy access to kitchens and daily home-cooked meals. Despite there being an open kitchen in Omega, not many of us have the supplies or feel like going and actually making the effort to cook a meal. Also, many of us lack the skills to even make any sort of meal more than eggs, ramen, or toast. This is relevant to all of you because everyone loves food, and many of you probably have the desire to learn how to cook for yourselves. Today, I'm going to teach you how to make something called a roux, and how to use this roux in different dishes so that maybe you all can start off on a path where you can cook your own food. From the time I was young, I had a passion for cooking, and I was always in the kitchen wanting to create something new and serve it to my family to see how it tasted. When I was young, I took cooking classes such as a pastries class and a knife skills class. Other than these cooking classes, I've been able to create some of my own recipes at home by using trial and error, and I have a keen sense of being able to pair flavors together to create new dishes. Because of these skills and this passion, I believe that I'm extremely credible and more than qualified to be able to come to you today and teach you how to make a roux. The recipe that I will be using today is courtesy of my mother, who has given me many different tips over the years on cooking. A roux is an extremely simple base that can be used in many different dishes. A roux consists of some type of flour and a type of fat. The most common roux is made of butter and flour. It is also the type that I will be teaching you how to use today. Along with butter and flour, depending on what type of sauce you're going to be making, you will either need milk or cream or some type of broth. You can use any percent of milk. I personally use 2% milk, and you can use any type of broth. I use chicken in this instance, but you can use beef or vegetable or whatever you have on hand. To start making a roux, you're going to want to take butter, and I used an entire stick because I made a lot of sauce. But whatever pan that you have, you're going to want to cover the bottom of the pan with melted butter, and you're melting that over medium heat. And this all depends on how much you're going to be making. You're going to want to melt the stick down, and then once you do so, you're going to sprinkle flour over the bottom of the pan to coat it. And you're not going to want to use too much, or else that it's going to become too solid. And once you sprinkle the flour into the pan, you'll want to use a whisk to mix them together until they become a dark yellow or brown paste mixture. This is a roux, and it's extremely simple. And I'm going to show you 2 different ways that you can use this base and make different sauces. These sauces can be used in many different dishes, and I will give a few examples of that. The first I'm going to be talking about is a bechamel sauce, and a bechamel sauce is simply a white sauce, and it's usually made with a type of cream or milk, and it's a good base for any type of cheese sauces, or it can be used for soups if you want to have them be creamy. What you're going to do once you've made your roux is you're going to slowly add a little bit of milk into the base, and you're wanting to whisk it together until the roux dissolves into the milk and let it come to a boil so that it can thicken. I like to slowly add the milk so that it can become bigger and bigger portions depending on how much sauce you're going to be needing. It's still going to be over medium heat, but you're slowly going to want to turn up the heat as you do so that it will come to a boil. Once you've continually mixed it and used a whisk to do so, it's going to become a thick consistency. And if you want it to be thinner, you can simply add more milk or add less milk depending on the consistency that you want. You can use this in casseroles, and you can make cream of mushroom soup or cream of chicken soup depending on what you want to do with it. And you can use this in many different dishes. It's also a good base to start making any type of sausage gravy or a white pepper gravy that can be put over biscuits. Speaking of gravies, I'm going to move on to a different type of sauce, which is a broth-based gravy. Once you use the same base of a roux, instead of adding milk to make a bechamel, you would add any type of broth in the same exact way, and it will form into a gravy. You can also add seasoning to your gravy. In this instance, I added pepper and garlic salt to mine, and I used this gravy over some green beans, but it can be used over meat and potatoes or even on biscuits depending on what you want to use it for. Now that I've shown you how to make a roux, I'm going to briefly recap my main points. As a college student, we may lack basic skills that all adults should know, and many of us can hardly even cook for ourselves. When making a roux, it's a great base that you can use for all types of casseroles, and it's simple, and I hope that this has helped you to at least become slightly more educated on some basic ways that you can start cooking for yourself. Thank you.
You've had 2 exams, 2 presentations, a group project, a speech, and you're finally writing your last paper. You're sitting at your desk and you're staring blankly at your computer screen, and you realize you haven't even written anything in the past half hour. Your eyes are crossing and all you want to do is go to sleep. What if I told you that it was actually the best life choice to do just that, to go to sleep? Today, I want to persuade you that naps are actually worth your while. According to the article, 10 Sleep Deprivation in College Student Statistics by the Health Research Funding Organization, at least 1 in 5 adults fail to get enough sleep. To put that into perspective, at least 4 of you in this room are probably struggling to stay awake through today. On average, college students get about 6 or 7 hours of sleep per night. But the article, Sleep Rocks, Get More of It, by the University Health Center at the University of Georgia, states that college students should be getting at least 8 hours of sleep every night. I myself am a college student, and am probably sleep deprived if I'm honest with myself. I've experienced the eye crossing while doing homework, but I've found a solution that I would like to share with you all today. I have done research to make myself credible on this topic, and my information comes from the Health Research Funding's website article, 10 Sleep Deprivation in College Student Statistics, published in 2014, the University of Georgia Health Center's article, Sleep Rocks, Get More of It, and the articles, What is the Ideal Nap Length, and Sleep Cycles, Everything You Need to Know, from the National Sleep Foundation. Today, I am first going to explain to you the problem of sleep deprivation, and how the human body cannot operate properly when deprived of sleep, and results in many negative effects. And then I will present the solution, naps. I will first explain the sleep cycles, and then talk about 20-minute power naps, 30 to 60-minute disadvantageous naps, and refreshing 90-minute naps. Hopefully by the end, you will understand why naps are worthwhile and incorporate them into your life. Most of you are probably thinking, I don't have time in my life to take naps. So in order for you to consider this possibility, you must understand the seriousness of the problem of sleep deprivation. The article, Sleep Rocks, Get More of It, by the University Health Center at the University of Georgia, says that the adult human body was designed to function with 6 to 10 hours of sleep per night. Of course, different adults need different amounts of sleep. So in order to know if you yourself are sleep deprived, think about this. If on the weekends, when you let yourself sleep in, you sleep 2 hours more than you usually do, that probably means that you're not getting enough sleep during the week. There are many negative effects of sleep deprivation. Some of these are higher susceptibility to illness, such as colds and the flu, due to a lowered immune system, more feelings of stress, increased weight gain, a lowering of GPA and decreased academic performance, increased vulnerability to mental health issues such as depression and anxiety, increased chances of car accidents due to fatigue caused by drowsy driving, and decreased performance in athletics, and other activities that require coordination. Now that you understand the problem, the seriousness of the problem of sleep deprivation, you'll be more open to the solution that I'm here to present. I'm now going to tell you about how naps can help us make up our sleep deficit. First, I need to explain to you sleep cycles. According to the article, Sleep Cycles, Everything You Need to Know by the National Sleep Foundation, the brain goes back and forth between two phases, rapid eye movement, or REM sleep, and non-rapid eye movement sleep. Stage 1 is the lightest stage of sleep. This is when you can be easily awoken, and you can often have the sensation of falling. Stage 2 is when your heart rate slows, your muscles relax, and your body temperature decreases. This is your body's preparation to go into deep sleep. Stages 3 and 4 are your stages of deep sleep, when it's really difficult to wake up. Stage 5 is your REM sleep, when your heart rate, breathing, and eye movement all speed up. This is when your brain becomes more active and processes the things that you've learned throughout the day. This is the stage when dreams take place. When these stages are complete, one sleep cycle has been completed. These cycles repeat themselves until you wake up. There's usually about 5 cycles in one night's sleep. Now I'm going to tell you about different lengths of naps and how they give different results. According to the article, What is the Ideal Nap Length? By the National Sleep Foundation, 20-minute power naps are ideal. This is usually the length of one complete sleep cycle, making it easy to wake up without feeling groggy, but instead experiencing positive results, such as improved alertness, enhanced performance, and better mood. However, when you get a little bit longer than this, you start to run the risk of a disadvantageous nap. 30 to 60-minute naps are often do more harm than good and should be avoided if you're seeking for a nap to improve your alertness. With naps of these lengths, you run the risk of encountering sleep inertia. This is the feeling of grogginess once you wake up. Because you'll probably wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle, it will take you a while to wake up from that deep sleep, and it will probably leave you feeling worse than you did when you went to sleep. However, if you have the luxury of 93 minutes in your day, naps of this length are quite beneficial and refreshing. This length allows you to complete your sleep cycles, making for an easier time waking up. Once you are awake, you may even notice a boost in memory or creativity from your time of rest. In conclusion, let's review the main points. We first talked about the problem of sleep deprivation. The human body was designed to function with 6 to 10 hours of sleep, and therefore cannot operate properly when deprived. We then talked about the negative effects of sleep deprivation, some of which include greater susceptibility to illness, weight gain, and lower GPA. And we then talked about the solution, naps. We talked about the ideal 20-minute power nap for immediate improvement in alertness and mood, 30 to 60-minute naps, which are generally disadvantageous and should be avoided, and 90-minute naps, which leave you feeling refreshed and can enhance memory and creativity. So it's finals week. You finished all of your other projects and you're finally working on that last paper. You're staring at your computer screen and your eyes are crossing and all you want to do is go to sleep. So you do, and you take your 20-minute power nap and you wake up feeling much better, more alert, and you finish your paper and you're done. So next time your eyes are crossing and all you want to do is go to sleep, do it. Take a nap, and I guarantee you'll be more productive in the long run. Thank you.
Cinnamon, sugar, spice, round, soft, chewy. Pay very close attention today as you observe the art of creating a special masterpiece. However, be cautious. One mess up and you could burn your entire kitchen down. Today, fellow public speakers, we will perfect the art of creating a spectacular creation, snickerdoodles. Why should you care? Because cookies remain one of the most angelic masterpieces that we as humans enjoy today. They melt in your mouth and they are simply irresistible. And also, mastering the art of cookie making will enable you to impress your significant other and will increase the chances of a ring by spring.
Hey.
Why am I credible to speak on this subject? Well, I have baked hundreds of desserts, including pies, cakes, and cookies, since the age of 10, and I personally created this snickerdoodle recipe many times before. Today, my information comes from the recipe Snickerdoodles by Joyce Betchel from the Amish Country Cookbook and the blog post The Sweet Story of Snickerdoodle Cookies from the website Grit. Today we'll be discussing imperative preparation for baking snickerdoodle cookies and the art of creating the perfect snickerdoodle cookie. Before we learn, however, how to create the most perfect, spectacular, melt-in-your-mouth snickerdoodle cookies, let's first examine the science behind preparing for a pleasurable baking experience. Alright, so imperative preparation for cooking snickerdoodle cookies begins with ensuring that you have all the required ingredients that you need to begin. Stopping in the middle of your recipe to go to the store is bothersome, and failing to have certain ingredients that you need can jeopardize your ultimate baking experience when you're baking. I also highly recommend cooking with an apron, as you see my cute snowman apron here. It keeps your clothes clean, and it also enhances your experience as a professional chef. I also recommend sanitizing your hands and your cooking location before you start. This prevents germs and disease from spreading and ultimately protects those who will be eating your finished product. Alright, now that we've adequately prepared for our baking experience, let's create some snickerdoodle delicacies. Today I'll be using the recipe Snickerdoodles by Joyce Betschel from the Amish Country Cookbook. Alright, let's begin by preheating our oven to 350 degrees Fahrenheit. After that, we're going to mix together the shortening, sugar, and eggs. So we're going to begin by taking our 1 cup shortening and adding that to our bowl. And then we're going to add our 1 1/2 cup sugar. And then 2 eggs. So to crack an egg, you just tap it lightly on the side of the bowl, and then break it open and let the yolk and the whites come out. And then you just do the same thing with the second one. Alright, and then we're just going to whisk that together with our whisk. And we're just going to lightly beat the egg yolks and the whites, and then just combine that together until we have a homogeneous mixture that is a pale yellow color. So it works better if you have an electric mixer, but for today I'm just using a whisk, and so it might take a little bit longer than normal and not be quite as smooth, but it just depends on your cooking taste that you have personally. Alright, so it's looking pretty smooth at this point, and as you can see, it's just a pale yellow color. Alright, so after we have that done, we're going to stir together the combined dry ingredients, and those include the flour, cream of tartar, baking soda, and salt. So in here we have 2 3/4 cup flour, a teaspoon cream of tartar, 1 teaspoon baking soda, and a teaspoon salt. And we're just going to gradually add this to our mixture. So we're just going to pour a little in, and then mix it up. If you add too much in at one time, you end up making a mess as you mix it. So we're just going to slowly add this in. And as we're mixing, I'm going to share with you the actual origins of the snickerdoodle cookie. So, the snickerdoodle origins, there's 3 ways that I found that it possibly derived its name. So one of them is that it was actually called snail dumpling, and that's why it was called snickerdoodle. Another reason it could be called snickerdoodle is from a New England tradition of naming cookies fanciful, whimsical cookie names, so that's why it got the name snickerdoodle. And another possibility is that it derives its name from snickerdoodle, from a tall tale created in the early 1900s. Alright, so we're just going to continue to add our flour mixture and mix this up. And you just continue to add it all until it's one homogeneous mixture. And when it's done, it's going to end up looking something like this. And then after you have that done, you're just going to chill it for 1 hour to make it firmer, and so that it's easier to roll into the cinnamon and sugar mixture that we'll do later. And so once that's meanwhile, as that is happening, we're going to mix our cinnamon and sugar together. So in here we have 2 tablespoons sugar and 2 teaspoons, 2 tablespoons sugar and 2 teaspoons cinnamon. And sometimes you need a little more of that, but it's just equal parts, 1 tablespoon sugar, 1 teaspoon cinnamon. And after your dough is chilled, you're just going to take a ball of it and smush it together, and then roll it into a ball. And then you're just going to roll that in your cinnamon sugar mixture and coat it completely. And then you just set this on a baking sheet about 2 inches apart and just fill up your baking sheet and then bake your cookies for about 8 to 10 minutes. And when they're done, they're going to be soft on top. You don't want to cook them till they're hard, otherwise once they cool they end up being too crunchy. You want them nice and soft. And then once they're done, you just place them on a baking rack to cool and then enjoy and of course share with others. So in conclusion, today we have discussed preparation for baking snickerdoodle cookies, how you ensure that you obtain all your necessary ingredients, remember to wear an apron, and also to clean your hands in your baking station. And then the art of creating the perfect snickerdoodle cookie includes, you want to make sure you measure properly and then also bake at the proper temperature. A cookie of any kind proves delectably delightful to the senses, unless, of course, you're allergic to chocolate or peanut butter, unfortunately, I'm sorry. And it also immediately improves a person's stay. So I challenge each and every one of you to make a cookie for someone special in your life, today or in the next month. Thank you.
Put yourself on an airplane. You're sitting in coach. You've been in Boston on business for a couple days, and now you're flying back home to your wife. You have this relaxed feeling coming over you as you think about her. Your plane takes off and everything is fine until a man behind you stands up and starts yelling loud and fast. And he stabs a flight attendant next to you as she's walking beside you. You become extremely frantic, nervous for your own life as your mind is telling you what just took place. This is the initial start of 9/11. This is also the start of the war on terrorism. This is relevant to all of us. This day will remain in our history books forever, alongside with other tragedies and wars. This is who we are as a nation. I'd like to say I'm credible to speak about this because of my research, which comes from 3 books. New York 9/11 by David Halberstam, One Nation from the article of Life magazine, and Why We Fight by William J. Bennett. I can also remember exactly where I was as I watched this tragedy unfold, and I can remember exactly how I felt. It was empty, scared, and afraid. In preview, I'll be discussing the 4 hijackings of flights 11, 175, 77, and 93. Now I've put you in the same mindset as me. I'll move on to the first flight, Flight 11. It took off early from Boston to Los Angeles. This flight struck the North Tower at 8:46 a.m., hitting on the 96th floor at speeds over 400 miles an hour. This sends shock waves up and down the tower, absorbing the massive explosion. Fire and smoke instantly start flying up to the sky as debris from the building fall to the ground. This flight had 81 passengers on board, killing every single person and many of those in the floors instantly. The people that do survive the explosion can't breathe due to the smoke, so they run to the opening for air. The heat is so extensive, many people jump to their death. This starts the panic on the streets of New York City. Millions are watching this firsthand. Now you understand the shock of the people in the building and on the ground. I'll tell you about the second plane, Flight 175. From Boston to Los Angeles, Flight 175 has a phone call that was recorded on an answering machine. A man to his wife. His last words were these: "Jules, this is Brian. Listen, I'm on an airplane that's been hijacked. If things don't go well and it's not looking good, I just want you to know I absolutely love you." I want you to do good. Go have a good time. Same to my parents and everybody. I just totally love you. And I'll see you when you get there. Bye, babe. I'll try to call you. Minutes later, at 9:03 a.m., Flight 175 hits the South Tower on the corner of the 77th floor and wipes out the building to the 85th floor. The plane hits the South Tower at an angle, stretched out for maximum damage. Again, the South Tower takes the full shock of the explosion like the North. There were 65 passengers on this flight. As this was being filmed on live television, emergency personnel scrambled on the ground to get into the buildings. People on the streets were stunned to witness the events and massive chaos in the city. Now I'll explain to you the third flight, Flight 77. Flight 77 was leaving Washington, D.C. to Los Angeles. This plane strikes the southwest wall of the Pentagon at 9:37 a.m. Flight 77 had 64 passengers on board. When it struck the Pentagon, it killed another 125, totaling in 189 people who lost their lives. The terrorists in these three planes used the largest airplanes with the most fuel. Each of these airplanes carried more than 9,000 gallons of kerosene, which allowed the towers to be engulfed with flames, catching most of everything on fire: desks, floors, ceilings, people, and paper. Paper was riddled like snow on the ground that day for hours. 21 minutes after the Pentagon was hit, something happened that we as Americans were never even thinking about. The South Tower starts to collapse, straight down onto its foundation, killing 99% of the people in the tower and around the tower. Firemen, policemen, ambulance workers, people just trying to help. It took 10 seconds for 500 million tons of metal to come down, filling the streets with metal and dust, working its way through streets and buildings close by. Exactly 30 minutes at 10:28 a.m., the North Tower fell. Again, it only took 10 seconds for it to reach ground level. By this time, the last flight was getting phone calls from loved ones stating what was going on. Now I'll explain to you some of the brave heroes, the brave souls on Flight 93. Flight 93 left Newark Airport heading to San Francisco. Passengers heard the tragic events unfolding and didn't want to see any more people killed. So they came together and forced themselves into the cockpit. This plane crashed in an open field outside of rural Pennsylvania, killing all 44 passengers. These brave souls gave their own lives to save others from dying. In conclusion, I've talked about Flight 11 hitting the North Tower, starting panic on the streets and in the buildings. Flight 175 striking the South Tower and eventually both towers falling completely. Flight 77 taken out, the southwest wall of the Pentagon. Flight 93, the bravery these passengers showed to save others. In a span of 2 hours, there had been an estimated of around 3,000 people killed on American soil. This historic yet tragic event started a war on terrorism that has lasted over 15 years. This war still continues today. I beg you, please do not forget this day. Do not forget the people who died and the families who lost everything. There were 900 posters put up for missing people. 6 were found. Thank you.
Story to tell. Welcome to mine. Going from the youngest of 5 to the middle of 10. Most was probably one of the most weird, sometimes annoying, but overall the greatest gift to God I have ever gotten. Today, I'm going to talk about what it's like growing up in a big family. It's relevant to everyone here because we're all part of a family. We might not have big ones like mine. We might have just one or none siblings, but we're all part of a family, whether it be our family here or our family at church. I'm comfortable with this because I have spent most of my life in a big family, and I've also grown up around other families much bigger than mine. I'm going to touch on 3 things. Why and how my family got so big, what it was like growing up in that big family, and how that big family has shaped me today. Once you've gotten a brief history of how my family got so big, I'll give you an insight on just how fun it was growing up. My parents' love for children is the main reason why our family is so big. After me, my mom couldn't have any more children, and I was the youngest of 5. So, they wanted to help other children, even though they couldn't have any more. So they started foster caring kids. Within a span of 5 years, we have fostered over 20 kids. And after 2 of those years, we started the process of adopting 3 of my now younger brothers. So, we fostered them for 3 years, and then we finally adopted them. 2 years later, we started adopting my now younger sister and my other younger brother. And it was difficult, but overall it was amazing. So now that you have an insight of how my family got so big, I want to talk about what it was like growing up. If you ever needed help, whether it be moving something, homework, can't find something, or in my case, if you're really short, you have a lot of tall brothers, so they'll get it for you. So, you could always count on help, no matter what it was. So, normal activities. Some of you going to the store for your family takes 20 minutes. Mine, 2 hours. It's long. Getting into the car, no problem, unless we've got to leave an hour before we're supposed to. And that's just one of the crazy things growing up in a big family is. Another one of my favorite is you have your very own fan section. No matter how far your game is, or no matter how long it was, your whole family was there, cheering you on. The people at the front gate even thought our family was the team itself. We had to buy, another perk of it is you would have to buy 2 family passes instead of 1 because your family exceeded the family pass limit. And our family minibus would be bigger than my high school's transportation. So restaurants would get scared that our family showed up rather than when my team pulled in. Now that you've got an idea of what it's like being in a big family growing up, I want to talk about how my big family has shaped me to who I am today. I have learned so much from my family, but one of the most important things that I'll never forget and will stick with me forever is you never take what you have for granted, because you never know what you have until it's all gone. And mostly because when we first adopted my younger siblings, they had nothing. Like, we were the first thing they had. So that really hit me, and I will never forget that. And With this big family, it has taught me not only to treat others how I want to be treated, but treat them even more. Like, treat them like you would treat an adult or some famous person, because that's what they deserve. And also, my giant crazy family has shaped me to be one of the most loving, caring, and generous people. They've also taught me, even if you have nothing, you'll always have something if you care, love, and are generous to people who have even more than you or have nothing at all. So as I conclude, my family is so big because my parents' love for children, and we adopted so many. Growing up, you can find help wherever you need it. And you have your own fan section. And most of all, never take anything for granted and treat others more than you even want to be treated. So, as I end today, I want you all to remember, no matter how annoying your family can be, no matter how tired you get of them, at the end of the day, they're all you have, and that's everything you need. Thank you.
It can be difficult for most of us. You're driving, and something catches your eye in the rearview mirror. Your heart immediately begins to race, and your hands start shaking. You begin to slow your speed and pull towards the curb. The blue and red lights are blinding, and as you stop, they are joined by a spotlight aimed directly at your back window. You begin to replay the past few minutes of driving in your head. What did you do wrong? Now imagine further. This hopefully will be more difficult for most of us. The officer comes up to the window and asks if you have been drinking. He then instructs you to step out of the car and tells you that he is going to conduct a standardized field sobriety test. Don't worry, he won't be asking you to recite the alphabet backwards. But what is the process of a sobriety test, and what are the clues that the officer is looking for? Now, what is the relevancy of this for any of us? Well, we need to know how to avoid detection if we've been drinking and driving. Just kidding, that's impossible. But the criminal justice system is composed of many intricate processes that are important for us to understand as citizens and participants of a functioning society. Understanding these processes can help us to be confident in the way the system functions as it relates to detecting when individuals have been drinking while intoxicated. Now, my credibility on this subject, my major is criminal justice, so I have classes that have taught some of this material. I have never drank and drive. However, I have been pulled over 3 times for suspected DUI because I was sleepy or avoiding potholes. But my additional research comes from a testing procedures worksheet that was developed and used by the New Jersey Police Department and found on the state's website. And then AAA's website also offers resources related to impaired driving, including descriptions and explanations of the processes used. Over the course of the speech, I want to talk about the 3 tests that a police officer conducts when conducting a standardized field sobriety test. The first is a horizontal gaze nystagmus test. The second is a walk and turn test, and the third is a one-leg stand test. In the scenario I described, the officer would first instruct you to complete a horizontal gaze nystagmus test. And for this, I'd like to call up my assistant, Lexi. Now, for the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the officer would instruct the suspect to put their feet together, their hands at their side, keep their head still, and then follow the stimulus with their eyes. Now, the stimulus that they would be using in the daytime would normally be their finger, and they would just bring their finger to one side or the other. And then in the nighttime, they would use a small flashlight. And what they're looking for, the clues that they're looking for, is kind of a jerky movement in the eye as it follows the stimulus. And I want to illustrate that with this short video, and I can explain. So if that won't load, I want to proceed and just kind of describe what goes on. So in the eye of a sober person, the eyeball will be able to follow a stimulus one way or the other in a very smooth motion, what they would call a smooth pursuit. And if they are drunk, or if they're intoxicated, then the eye will tend to jerk or not be able to smoothly follow the stimulus from one way to the other. And so actually you can see right here, this is the eyes of a sober person. This is the eyes of someone who has been drinking. And you can see how the eyeballs are jerking as the stimulus moves from one side to the other for the person who is intoxicated, whereas up above, the pursuit of the eyeball one way or the other is much more smooth. So the clues for that are just the smooth pursuit, and then if the eyeball starts jerking before 45 degrees to one side or the other, that shows a clue that the person may be intoxicated. So now that you understand the processes and clues that can be determined by the horizontal nystagmus test, we will move on to the next test. This test is called the walk and turn test. The officer would instruct the suspect to take 9 steps, heel to toe in a straight line with arms at sides, and then turn on one foot and return in the same manner in the opposite direction. And so the clues that they're looking for here is if the suspect can't keep their balance, if they start before the instructions are finished, if they stop walking, if they miss the heel to toe, if they step off the line, or if they begin to use their arms to keep their balance. Now that you know about the walk and turn test, let me familiarize you with the final test an officer will use to determine sobriety, the one-leg stand test. The officer would instruct the suspect to put their feet together and their arms at their sides, and to rise either foot approximately 6 inches above the ground, with the foot pointed out and both legs straight, and to look at the elevated foot while counting aloud 1001, 1002, 1003, and so on. And what he looks for here is if the suspect sways while they're trying to balance, if they use their arms to balance, if they hop to keep from falling, or if they put their foot down. You can put your foot. So in review, the 3 portions of the standardized field sobriety test is the horizontal gaze nystagmus test, the walk and turn test, and the one-leg stand test. This process of testing an individual suspected of impaired driving is not foolproof, but according to AAA, it is accurate more than 90% of the time. For example, an individual with an unusual eye condition may inadvertently fail the horizontal gaze portion of the test, even if sober. Because of this possibility, officers are instructed to ask the subject, or the suspect, for an explanation if they fail any portion of the test, and the officer will take note of this explanation while determining probable cause for arrest. The results of this test, paired with a preliminary breathalyzer test, are admissible as evidence in court if the officer determines that probable cause does exist and charges the suspect with a crime. Many of us have seen standardized field sobriety tests administered in movies or TV shows, but oftentimes those media sources do not take the time to explain the actual process or the clues that the officer is searching for. Although I hope that none of you will ever have to take one of these tests in your lifetime, I hope that it is now more clear to you in your mind and you have an increased confidence in the processes used to determine impaired driving. Thanks.
Okay, so today I'm going to be talking about the importance of mothers. I'm going to start by reading from Proverbs 31, verse 25 through 31. It says, "She is clothed with strength and dignity. She can laugh at the days to come. She speaks with wisdom, and faithful instruction is on her tongue. She watches over the affairs of her household and does not eat the bread of idleness. Her children arise and call her blessed. Her husband also, and he praises her. Many women do noble things, but you surpass them all. Charm is deceptive, and beauty is fleeting, but a woman who fears the Lord is to be praised. Honor her for all that her hands have done, and let her works bring her praise at the city gate. After reading this, I was reminded of one person, and that was my own mother. Why is this relevant to you guys today? I feel that this is relevant because mothers are often taken for granted and underappreciated in today's society. Also, many of you in the crowd today, many women will become mothers, and many of the guys will marry someone who will be a mother. And lastly, the holidays are coming, and many of you will see your own mothers coming up in around a week or so. My credibility comes from the Bible and my increased relationship with my own mom, and how I came to the realization of how blessed I really was in having the mom that I do have. I will be talking about 3 characteristics of a godly mother today. The first is a spiritual, godly mother, referenced in Proverbs 22:6. Second, I will talk about a supportive mother, talked about in Matthew 5, verse 16. And third, I will talk about a serving mother, talked about in Philippians 2, verse 4. I believe that everyone in class today will have a better appreciation for their own mother and can have an improved relationship with their mom if they are just reminded of how much their moms do for them every day. So first I will be talking about the spiritual mother. Proverbs 22:6 says, "Start children off on the way they should go, and even when they are old, they will not turn from it." My own mom was someone who was great at starting me off in the direction I believe I should have gone. First, she taught me how to pray as if I was just talking to God in a normal relationship. As many of you probably were taught by your own moms how to pray, maybe as she tucked you in at night or as you were going to bed. Second, my mom always got me ready for church, dressed me in maybe a sweater vest or something that I probably didn't want to wear, and probably combed my hair over and put some gel in it. And this was just a great foundation to start growing up in the church. Third, my mom taught me about Jesus. As many of you guys probably had a mom like this that directed you and taught you how Jesus acted, and she displayed that herself. My mom was awesome at living out the lessons that she would teach me beside my bed. She always showed me love that probably I didn't even deserve, and I couldn't imagine anyone would deserve. She gave me encouragement through anything that I tried to tackle, and she also gave me guidance in times when I didn't know what to do. She was a woman who always read her Bible, and she would give me guidance from what she had learned in past experiences, and she always put others before herself. I have 3 other brothers, and my mom has been just the best mom you could ever imagine. When people say that they have the best mom, I always feel that they're wrong, because I can't imagine anyone having a better mom than my own. I didn't really realize this until I was about in 2nd grade. My mom was having difficulties breathing, and when she was doing this, I was worried because my mom was my best friend. We found out that my mom had blood clots in her lungs. This means that the blood just stops flowing evenly, and this had progressed for months and maybe even years, and she got these blood clots in her lungs and she wasn't able to breathe. So she was in the hospital, and as a 2nd grader, obviously I didn't really know what to think about my mom being in the hospital, but me and my brothers were told that my mom may not make it the next night. So, as you can imagine, being a 2nd grader facing something like this, it was pretty tough to imagine what would life be like without a mom or my best friend, who's taught me so many things. Eventually, after learning these lessons of like how to pray and what to do, that's the only thing I knew what to do. So I went back and I prayed as much as I possibly could all night. I was crying, and that's probably the last time I can remember crying. I was in 2nd grade about how I just wanted God to save my mom. Eventually, my mom actually was alright. Now she's doing fine and she's in great health. But this really helped me realize just how much my mom meant to me and all the lessons she had taught me. Through this experience, she helped me grow spiritually. I realized that God really can do miracles. We were told that she had above a 90% chance of dying that night. So for my mom to make it was, I felt, a miracle and just a result of the prayer that she had taught me. And I also had a renewed appreciation for my mom that sometimes I realized I took for granted. So now that we've seen how our moms can shape us spiritually, let's look at how our moms can support us. The supportive mother is referenced in Matthew 5:16, I believe. It says, "Let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven." My mom was also a light, just how that verse talked about. She always gave great love and great encouragement, and she always challenged me and my brothers to be the best that we could possibly be. She provided emotional support, and even on days when we asked how we looked or how we did, she would lie and tell us the things that we wanted to hear. My mom was my biggest fan, and for some of you, she's probably your biggest fan also. My mom is my day one, literally. She gave birth to me, and she's always been there for me. Just like Jesus, I can always feel that my mom is there for me. She always has open arms, and even today, she still calls me every single day to ask how I'm doing and to check in on me. So now that we see the impact our mothers have spiritually and in support, let's look at how our moms serve us. The serving mother is referenced in Philippians 2, verse 4. It says, "Do not look at your own interests, but each of you to the interest of others." So, for many of you, your mothers serve you in countless ways. My mom works a job, and yours probably do too. She cooks and prepares meals that sometimes are better than others, but she always tries her best. And my mom has always done house chores for our entire family. Through cleaning, laundry, and dishes, she constantly applies herself and does the best she can. In review, I talked about how mothers can impact us spiritually through setting examples and through teaching us about Jesus. Second, how our mothers can impact us through their support by being present in times of need and giving love and support. And lastly, I talked about the impact our moms can have through serving us, putting us first, and working incredible amounts. In conclusion, I would like to challenge everyone today, first, to just pray for your moms. This is something that you can do that's super easy, that you've learned, you can always do. I'm sure that your moms could use some prayer and it would help them throughout what they do. I also would challenge everybody to thank your moms today, or whenever you go home to see them, just to thank them for everything that they do. Another thing I would challenge you to do is to assist your mom. Go home and help her out, help her to do things, and give her some love back. And lastly, I would challenge everybody to appreciate your moms more. I hope that this is a reminder for everyone to realize just how much their moms do for them. And don't just appreciate them on Mother's Day or on Christmas when they give you gifts. Try to appreciate them every day. Thanks.
Today I want to talk to you about why I believe basketball is such a great sport. But before I get into the benefits of basketball and the things that it teaches us, I want to tell you a story from my life. It was my sophomore year, and I was playing in the biggest basketball tournament of the year. I was in travel league, so this was springtime, and I was in a game. We were down 12 points with about a minute left. Now I knew that if we lost that game, we were going to be out of the tournament for the rest of the weekend, and we had already played about 3 games that day, so we were on our 4th game of the day. I was already exhausted, and I knew my teammates were as well, and so I thought about just giving up. Down 12 points with a minute left, it's very hard to come back from that. But after a turn of events, some things happened, and I decided that I was going to try my hardest to win that game so that my team and I could continue on in the tournament and even have a chance to win the whole thing. Well, with a minute left, I got the ball at the top of the key and shot a 3-pointer, and I made it. And so then we were only down 9 points. My teammates got another turnover from the other team, got the ball, they passed it to me again, I shot another 3-pointer and made it again. Now we had cut our loss to about half of what it was, and there was about 30 seconds left. My teammates got one more turnover, passed the ball to me again for the 3rd time, I shot again and made it. Down 3 points, that's one shot, we can do that. There was about 17 seconds left in the game, and yet again, my players on my team got another stop, and we got the ball back, not letting them score. I got the ball again with about 5 seconds left, shot one more three-pointer to tie the game, and I made it again. Now, I don't pride myself on being a very good three-point shooter, but in that moment, I was feeling pretty good about myself. We eventually went on into overtime, and we eventually won the game and stayed in the tournament. Now, the feelings that I had after that game made me believe that basketball was the greatest sport of all time. I had never felt those feelings in anything else in my entire life. So today, I want to talk to you about why I believe basketball is such a great sport. We all have played basketball in one form or another. Maybe you just went out with your friends and played a little competitive game in someone's backyard or at the park, or maybe you played a very competitive game of knockout during halftime of one of your school's basketball games. Also, the NBA alone last year, the NBA is America's Professional Basketball Association, if you didn't know that, generated $5.18 billion just in one single year. Also in the spring of 2015 alone, over 29 million adults in America competed in basketball competitively. I believe I'm credible to talk about this topic because I've played basketball competitively for 15 years, and I've also played many other sports including baseball, soccer, football, golf, and yes, even bowling. I've researched and studied basketball also and the benefits that it has over the last several weeks. So today I want to talk to you about three main things. One, basketball teaches us the importance of teamwork. It also teaches us how to be disciplined. And also, basketball is a great sport because anybody can play it. In order to believe that basketball is such a great sport, we must first learn the benefits that basketball gives to each competitor. One is teamwork. Teamwork equals sacrifice. An individual must give up themselves and their body to benefit the good of the team. Many times you see players in other sports like football, after they score or they do something great, point to the back of their jersey. And what's always found on the back of football players' jerseys? Their last name. But in basketball, we're always taught to play for the name on the front of your jersey instead of the name on the back. Also, in basketball, all 5 players are extremely important. I remember playing soccer intramurals earlier this year, and the fact that each player isn't as important in soccer. You can have one player in soccer who's not very good, and that won't hurt the team as much as it would in basketball. In basketball, if you have one player that's not doing very well, that's going to negatively affect the team in a way that most sports don't have. Each player also has a personal responsibility and one specific unique job. Although some players do share specific responsibilities and have some of the same things, one weak link ruins the entire team. If one person is not doing well and they're turning the ball over, or they're not shooting well, or they're not rebounding or hustling hard enough, it's a coach's job to get that weak link out and put someone in who does provide more teamwork, and it gives the team a better chance to win. Also, basketball provides the opportunity to learn how to be disciplined. Basketball teaches every player the benefits of hard work and discipline, and one of the ways that it does that is through conditioning. Now, if you've never played a sport, conditioning is where you get your body in shape for the season. Usually this happens over the summer for basketball and in the weeks and months prior to the season actually starting. Now, I've been through basketball conditioning several times, and I can say that it's definitely one of the most painful and hard things that I have ever done in my entire life. But because I learned that to be good in basketball, you need to condition, I understood that even through the pain and even through the hardest things that you have to go through, those things make you a better player. Another way that you're disciplined in basketball is by being punctual to practices and games. One of our fellow members of our group shared in their last speech that being on time is being late and being early is being on time. That's so true in basketball. In fact, if you're even 5 minutes early to practice or a game, a coach will probably yell at you because you needed to be there 10 minutes early or 15 minutes early. Also, practices are very, very extensive. You usually practice about 6 times a week, and outside of that, you must also put in several hours throughout your week to work hard and get better. Another way that basketball is such a great sport is that anyone can play. You don't have to be super good to play basketball. In fact, I would say that all ages and all skill ranges can play. All you really need is a ball and a hoop. Basketball is a very inexpensive sport compared to others. If you think about football, you need a lot more things than you do for basketball. But also, basketball can connect people in different cultures very, very easily. One of my friends spent several months on an Indian reservation, and she said that one of the greatest ways that they were able to connect to the children on that Indian reservation was to play basketball with them. As you may know, Dennis Rodman, who was a former NBA champion and also a Hall of Famer, was able to enter North Korea even though no one else was, just because he was a basketball player. He broke down Kim Jong-un's barriers, and he was allowed into the country of North Korea and formed a relationship with them just because he was a good basketball player. Basketball breaks down many barriers, including national, cultural, and personal barriers. So now that we know these things that make basketball a terrific sport, let's review our main points. 1, teamwork. Teamwork is very important in basketball. All 5 players are very, very critical to the team's success. And also we know that one weak link in basketball can ruin an entire team. Number 2, discipline. Basketball teaches us the responsibility of hard work and discipline by having to be punctual to practices and games, needing to be self-motivated, and always having to work hard. And number 3, anyone can play basketball. All it takes is a ball and a hoop. Doesn't need a lot of money or a lot of people. Just a few guys or a few girls out on the court playing basketball that anyone can play. Also, basketball connects cultures and breaks down barriers. That's why I believe basketball is one of the greatest sports in the world. Some might argue that basketball is the single greatest sport in the world, but instead I will simply argue that it is a great sport, and it is up for you to decide for yourself whether or not you think basketball is the greatest sport. So today, are you going to join me in my opinion in believing that basketball is great, or do you think that some other sport is great? But I hope I was able to convince you today that basketball is one of the greatest sports of all time.